Hi everyone, I'm Emily Wishall with Wishall Wellness, and today we are talking about feet. Your feet say it all, and this really is very true. The structure and function of our feet create a significant impact and effect on the rest of our structure. So right now, go ahead and take a moment and sneak a peek at your feet. So if you're wearing shoes or socks, just take them off. Just take a break and take your shoes off, take your socks off. If you're in public and you think this might be insane, maybe don't do it right now then, and take a moment when you're back at home to sneak a peek and check in with your feet. Our feet are always walking, they're what we stand on, they're always supporting us, yet we give them so little attention. So if you are looking at your feet in this moment, go ahead and do this. If not, take a mental note and come back to this later. But go ahead and just look at them. Stretch your toes out and wiggle them. How does it feel? Can you wiggle? Can you spread out all 5 toes on both feet? Do you maybe have any bunions, any weird bone formations? And as you're stretching and moving your feet around, do they feel tight, tender? So now, wherever you are, go ahead and stand up and take a few steps forward. And if you're in a small space, just come forward and back. And notice, and do this, preferably doing this barefoot, because we're really looking here, how does each foot contact the ground? So as you step forward with your foot, is there a spreading that happens in the foot? So are the bones actually able to move and spread apart? Or does your foot just kind of hit the ground like a sort of block, like one impact and down it goes with little movement in between the bones? So go ahead and you can still keep doing this and listen, or sit down, put your socks and shoes back on, and we'll talk about the feet a little bit. So in each foot we have 26 bones and 33 joints. Pretty significant, a lot's going on. And ideally, there is movement in between each of these bones. And when we contact the ground, why I had you try and do that, ideally when we contact the ground, there's a spreading that happens. The foot actually gets a little bit larger, maybe even. And the bones, they literally spread apart. And this action serves a very important function. The spreading of the foot that happens acts as a shock absorber to take some of the impact from walking, from that contact with the ground. That's a fair amount of impact, and so it's an important shock absorber, as well as many other things. However, in today's world, we walk on flat, hard surface. Our feet aren't moving on much, if any, uneven surfaces, and so our bones in between in our feet aren't really able to articulate and move. And also, to compensate for this hard, flat surface that we walk on, we often wear thick-soled shoes. Sometimes, maybe even high heels, which I'm not going to get into high heels now. It's a whole nother conversation. I occasionally wear some heeled cowboy boots that I love. Sometimes in the summer to a wedding, I wear wedges. Not anti-heels. I am anti-heels every day. Yeah, I've got to say that one. But we're not going to that conversation. Some other blog, some other day. But so, say we're wearing the thick-soled shoes to cushion and take on some of that impact from the ground. So the shoe is affecting and restricting and limiting the movement in our bones. And our foot really is only able to move however much the shoe allows, and so that's dependent on each shoe, but some it's really pretty limited. And so say for instance you're somebody who wears minimal shoes. First of all, yay you. But second of all, if you're listening to this or reading the blog, more than likely you walk on flat surfaces all day long. And so even though you're wearing minimal shoes, and yes, your feet are a little bit more free and your bones have more freedom to move and articulate with surfaces, which is very awesome, they're still in a constant, more or less, flat state, and Also, your foot's in a lot of, this is hard to do, flexion, so between the foot and ankle. So flexion and flat. So still not a lot of movement and not a lot of ease there. Now, why does this matter, and why do I say that your feet say it all? Well, our body is created, it's organized in a sort of chain-like system. So we all know the old song, the leg bone's connected to the thigh bone, and so on. That really tells the whole story. So with that, our bodies are like a chain, and with one link or bone connecting the next link or bone. And those links connect at the joint. Now think about what would happen if the first link in a chain were to be out of position or not moving as it's intended to. Our feet are our first link in our body, and they are what support us and move us through life. So when there is limited movement of the bones of the foot, or maybe we have foot pain, or we have a foot imbalance going on, it will negatively affect the way a person walks or stands. It's as simple as that. It will. And when our feet are also, when they're not able to effectively contact the ground and spring off the ground, the ankle, which is the next link in the chain, is impacted. And then with that ankle, that limited motion, the knee is impacted, and then the hip is impacted, and so on through our whole structure and our entire system. And with this, another point, when any part of the body moves, the entire body responds. So as we move through life, ideally, our joints and our body lengthen. So as we're walking, ideally there's a lengthening, a two-directional lengthening happening. But so often as we age and as we go through life and as we're walking on this hard, impactful, flat surface, we shorten. And if our bases support the feet don't properly articulate and expand, the structure is, as a result, limited. So another point with that, I got a little on a tangent, so I lost my train of thought. Pardon me there. But say for instance, one example, if your normal way of walking is painful, so maybe you have arthritis in your big toe, you would change your gait, you would change your movement, walking patterns in order to avoid that joint and avoid that pain. Totally makes sense, but then you're still not using some of the bones. A lot of the joints in the foot aren't moving. Think about what's happening through the entire chain in the body. And so say for instance you may experience, maybe you have low back pain, maybe you don't have foot pain, but maybe you have low back pain or knee pain or just overall tightness. And if you're ready to create some change in your body, your feet are the most perfect place to start. So that's why we say your feet say it all.